Unity of Houston is an inclusive church where we seek to understand and live the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual masters. At Unity, we welcome all people from all spiritual paths and every walk of life. We celebrate the diversity of our city and of our world, and we teach love, tolerance, and oneness, seeking to live in harmony with open minds and open hearts.
Wherever you are in your spiritual path, you are always welcome at Unity. Join us and discover that the life of your dreams is already within you.
Let's check the score, and then we're done. 16-9, the Cougars are winning, so okay. There are pastors all over Houston today that are so bothered by this. How could they schedule the University of Houston game in the NCAA tournament at 11 o'clock on a Sunday morning? Why would they do that? We don't really talk about the devil much, but I'm beginning to rethink that. So, I have something to say today. I don't know what it is. There's something about spring that my energies just come alive. I think I'm just sort of wired to this. And we're talking about, I've chosen for the title, More Than You Know, and that using spring as a metaphor that sometimes it may look like lifeless and barren in our lives. We go through difficult times, but there's more than we know available. And that's what the whole planet, at least in the northern hemisphere right now, we're seeing that. Things that appeared to be dead are coming to life. New things happening everywhere. Can you feel how excited I get by this? I am so excited, and I have so much I want to say, like too much. I have too many sermons I want to give this morning, so I was really trying all week long. I've been like, I can't talk about that. I want to tell that story. No, I can't do all that. I've got to find the time. So I spent time distilling it down to two words: hope and transformation. That's what we're talking about today. But first, Twitter. I am just looking for real life things that parents are posting on Twitter about their life with their children. It's better than any comic writer, I'll tell you. This one is her Twitter handle is called I Hide From My Kids. And she says this: absolutely travel with your kids. It's important that they experience begging to watch their iPad in new environments. And this is one, it's called Daddy Go Fish. That's his handle. He's putting his child to bed. He says, I love you. The 7-year-old says, I love you too. Dad says, I love you to infinity. The 7-year-old, I love you to infinity too. The dad, I love you more than ice cream. The 7-year-old, silence. What flavor? I just love that. That's so good. There's great hope in the new generations. Spring, oh my goodness. If you're not, and I know that we are now global, so if you in the southern hemisphere are entering into autumn now, I think most of us are probably up here where things are beginning to shift. And today, you know what the vernal equinox is? It's the day, David said, at 10:33 this morning, the sun was perfectly over the equator, which means today is the day that the day and the night is the same length all over the planet. It'll happen again in the fall. You know, the days have been getting longer, the nights have been getting shorter since December 21st, which is the winter solstice, and now they'll continue to get longer and hotter and longer, and things grow. In Houston, we really, we get hot. And those long days of the sun are not as enjoyable in August. But anyway, today we're talking about the planet coming back to life. And this is the time when we even I consider myself, and can I say this, a half-assed gardener? I'm not good at it. My dad and my grandpa, they were just incredible gardeners. Not only did we have a huge vegetable garden in our backyard, but any neighbor that wasn't using their garden spot, my dad would knock on their door and say, can we put in a garden? We'll give you half. And so one time I remember we had 4 different gardens going on in our little town. So a lot of green beans. I shucked a lot of corn, dug a lot of potatoes. I didn't enjoy it, which is probably why now I live in a house with no garden. But I do enjoy nurturing things from potential into into demonstration. And that is what we do in spirit. That's our practice at Unity, is that we take, it doesn't matter what it looks like in your life. If you want to be cultivating health or better relationships or greater abundance in your financial life, whatever greater experience of expressing your creativity in your work life, it doesn't matter that it's not here yet. That's not it. You see, there's potential within you, and the energy of life itself, the universe, spirit, divine creative energy is forever seeking to be revealed through you, through your desires, through your thinking and through your beliefs, into something you've never seen before. That's what Unity is all about. So the title, More Than You Know. If I could have even remotely known to put my life today on a vision board 30 years ago, I would have thought, no, can't possibly happen. That's way too much. That must be for somebody else, not for me. And it didn't happen overnight. It took 30 years of planting new seeds in thought into the soil of the receptive nature of God. Sometimes the metaphysicians call it the law. That law of cause and effect, that law of attraction. We place our coherent, focused thought and desire into that soil of the law, and something causes it to grow. And before we know it, we are pulling into our experience exactly what we had hoped for. Now, sometimes here's the thing, when you're going to plant a tomato seed, you're not going to get a grape. You're not going to get a banana. You're going to get a tomato. But you don't have to determine how many leaves that tomato vine is going to put out. You don't have to tell God how many tomatoes to put out and when they're going to be. You don't have to get to that level of detail. Just know, I want tomatoes. You hold that thought and you're clear with it. You're steadfast in it, and you not only plant the seed, but then guess what you have to do? You nurture it. Give it light and water. It's not magic in the way that, it's not. It feels like magic. You take a seed and then you get tomatoes. But it takes time and energy and the right nutrients, and then guess what? A few weeks, those little blossoms, little tiny yellow blossoms. If you have worms, you can feed them to your chickens if you have chickens. Those old tomato worms, they turn into those Luna moths, I think. Or hawk moths. But we don't want them on our tomatoes. I don't like to share my tomatoes with anybody. Well, not the moths anyway, not the worms anyway. But if we do the work in spirit, you can see how my metaphor is getting a little, I could go with this all day. That the idea of nurturing from seed to beautiful, completed flower to fruit, it happens spiritually in our lives if we're willing to do the work. We have the capacity to transform our lives from what they are into that which is even beyond our seeing. I don't want to leave this topic of how we are in relationship to the earth, because it says a lot. And it's not just a metaphor. It actually shapes the way we function and the way we feel. This is from Thomas Berry. If the outer world is diminished in its grandeur, then the emotional, imaginative, intellectual, and spiritual life of the human is diminished or extinguished. Without the soaring birds, the great forest, the sounds and colorations of the insects, the free-flowing streams, the flowering fields, the sight of clouds by day and the stars at night, without these we become impoverished in all that makes us human. And so if you're feeling a little stuck in your emotional and your spiritual and your creative life, go look at some flowers. Go walk by a bayou. Go sit with your back against one of these centuries-old live oak trees we have all over this city. Feel, because when you do that, you begin to connect to something bigger than you are. And that's how we begin to tap into the reality of that which is more than we have known so far. So we are given this amazing gift of a human life and the gift of this relationship with nature. And life and nature are great teachers. I would love it to be spring all the time. But would it mean as much if things were always blooming and they never fully progressed to fluting? Thank you, Cornell. You've got my fluting on my mind. To flowering and to fruiting, and then the fruit is there to get the seed. There is a cycle. There is a natural rhythm of seasons. This comes from the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3. There's a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance. For many, many years, I pushed away anything that was uncomfortable. Did my best to keep spring going 365 days a year. Didn't want to feel sad, pushed my sadness down. Didn't want to feel angry, pushed my anger away. I didn't want to experience grief and loss, so I would, and then, in my 20s, I learned this great secret. You could drink stuff away for a while. You know how that story ends. What I've learned, as I'm maturing spiritually, is to not push any of it away, but instead to integrate everything that happens. Sometimes we get this idea that if we go to Unity Church, they're so positive over there, I bet nothing negative will ever happen in your life if you go to Unity. Never. No more pain, no more illness, no more loss. No. The ones who've been around for 30, 40 years, is that true? That's not the way it works. But the teaching gives us a way to be with it and to to give it new meaning in terms of God's not mad at us. We're not being punished by life. We're just in life. And with the way we respond to life, when we know that God is all there is and that the power of God is alive and moving through me, it changes the way we show up when those dark and difficult things happen. Last week, I told the story of Jonah and Nineveh. 2 weeks ago, Reverend Karen told us the beautiful story of Ruth and Naomi. And I must be in a storytelling mode because there's a story I want to share with you. And this one also comes from ancient peoples. It's not from the Bible. This comes from the ancient Greeks. And so this is what is known as a myth. But I would say the same thing as I said last week. I don't know if any of this happened, but I know it's true. There's great truth in this story. Demeter was a goddess of the harvest, a goddess of agriculture, of the growing things. It's said that she's the one that taught the people how to plant the seeds and grow their own food, and she blessed their harvest. She had a daughter, beautiful child. She named her Kore. And Kore literally translates to maiden, young female child, or young female woman. And this was her name, and Demeter loved her daughter so much, and they would walk in the beautiful earth together, gathering the flowers and the fruit. One day, Demeter was off doing some goddess business with the other goddesses. I don't know what it was. The story doesn't say. And she came back, and she couldn't find Kore anywhere. And she knew the places where she normally was, so she began to search for her in wider and wider circles and was becoming frantic with worry. She loved her daughter so much. As she traveled farther and farther, becoming more and more desperate, she began to cry. One version of this story says that wherever Demeter's tear fell to earth, the earth turned to stone that would support no more life. Eventually, she found herself in the company of Hecate. How do you say that? Hecate. We're going to go with that. She was one of the ancient goddesses, and she was the goddess of the crossroads. She was known for her far vision, and she helped people navigate those crossroad moments. She's one of the few goddesses who chose to show up as an old woman, that she knew the wisdom that collects with time and age and was not at all embarrassed or ashamed to present her visage as a wise old woman. She's sort of a grandmother figure. And so when Demeter came to her desperate, desolate, Hecate said, "I'll help you find Kore." And she said, "I didn't see it happen, but I heard her cry out. I think she might have been abducted. And this just increased Demeter's worry. But Hecate said, wait, we will go to Apollo. Apollo, the sun god, who rides in his chariot, who sees everything that happens on the planet. He'll know. He will have seen what happened. And sure enough, the two of them travel to the sky. They see Apollo and they ask, and he says, oh, yes, I do know what happened. Kore's father, Zeus, was approached by his brother Hades, who was the god of the underworld. And it says that he was handsome. He had a mustache. You know those guys. He had a certain way of smiling that made the goddesses and the nymphs go, whoo! And maybe some of the gods, I don't know, But he had come to his brother Zeus and said, I would like to have Kore for my wife. And Zeus, as was the custom in that patriarchal society, and remember this is a story, he said, yes, I grant you permission to wed my daughter. But they didn't tell mom. Big mistake. So once Demeter had found out what happened, her grief just grew, and she, for years, it says, even for decades or centuries, she wandered the earth, continuing to try to find her beloved daughter, and couldn't. And the entire earth was turning to stone. Nothing would grow because she was a goddess of the harvest. And in her sorrow, she blessed no growing things. The people began to starve. And they could no longer bring their offerings to the other gods. And Zeus began to take notice. Interesting thing about Zeus, even though he's not a great character in a lot of things he does, he's willing to change his ways sometimes. He's willing to see that maybe what I did wasn't the right way. There is, and this is not in my notes, I tell you, I've got so much to say. For those of all of us, men and women are meant to embody the divine masculine, divine feminine. These are archetypes, ways for us of being with the energies of life so that we can show up as whole and integrated people. And sometimes that divine masculine energy just kind of ramrods things. We're going, here we go, get on board, we're going forward. And it's powerful energy to make something happen. And Zeus is great at that. Lightning bolt. But it also needs to be corrected. It also needs to be able to go, well, not that. And Zeus had one of those moments. He realized that his decision, he didn't see all of the long-term effects, and he didn't know that the people would starve. And so he sent Hermes, who was the messenger. Another thing about these ancient stories, they're interesting too, that the gods and goddesses, they had a job and a territory, and that's where they had to stay. Demeter was an earth goddess, and she couldn't go to the underworld where Hades ruled. It was not allowed. Zeus, God of Olympus, could not go to the underworld, but Hermes could. He was the messenger. So Zeus sent Hermes to the underworld and said, you must release Kore. Her grief, the grief of her loss has caused her mother too much pain for the world, and it must be remedied. So please, not please, you must return her to the upper world. And so Kore, before she left, Hades, that little mustache, he had a little trick up his sleeve, offered her a pomegranate from his garden. And she ate 3 seeds of the pomegranate. When she returned to the upper world, she was changed in a good way. She was no longer Kore, the innocent young maiden. She was Persephone, the goddess. And those 3 or 6, depending upon the way the story is told, pomegranate seeds ensured that she must always return to the underworld for part of the year. And so this is an origin myth of the seasons. That while Persephone is in the underworld where she tends and ministers and serves the dead who are new in this new world, she was called from great compassion, from the love her mother had shown her, and she helps them find their new life. In those months when she's away, nothing grows above. But each spring she returns with joy, with love, to her mother, and life comes again to the upper world. I have loved this story. It helped me integrate this idea that life ain't going to be spring all the time. I've never, I think, had, clinical depression. But I've had times where I've experienced what I would call situational depression in my life. I've times of grief and loss and sorrow, times when I don't feel springy. And I always thought I was doing it wrong. I always thought that, because that's just been my default most of the time, is like if something isn't feeling good, I'm doing it wrong. And this story, probably 25, 30 years ago, I heard someone teach on this story. And I realized, I'm not wrong, I'm just Persephone. I need to spend a little time in the underworld every year. It's a way of, the trees, when the leaves are gone, the deciduous trees anyway, in the winter they store all of those starches and all of the things that they have been converting with photosynthesized through their leaves. They convert it into sugars in the root, energy for a new spring, for a new chapter of fruit and growth. The story of Demeter and Persephone, it's meant the ancient peoples, it may have just been a tale they told to pass the time around the fire, but I don't think so. It was a tale to be told to teach people the way life works and how we're not meant to just force our will upon things like old Zeus trying to just, get it done. But we need to move in relationship, in community, in love, and in harmony. And then we can move with loss and with grief, with growth and with letting go. Like breathing in and breathing out. We've been through winter. And I don't just mean these past 3 months, I mean the last couple of years. So much disruption in our lives. I talk to people in our community who feel scared about the future. We've lost so much. How much is going to come back to normal? The predominance of mental illness in our world is off the charts right now. People dealing with anxiety, depression, many forms of it. And we all can get hypnotized into believing that whatever is right now is all that it's going to be. And I'm here to remind you today that that's not true. Never was true. I don't know what obstacle you're facing. I don't know what the struggle for you is, but I'm here to remind you that the potential for newness, for transformation, it's here. It's in your roots. You've been gathering it. I feel it in this church that we have not been able to do what we love to do. Today kind of feels like it a little bit more and more. And wait till the end of the service. We got dancers coming. Come on. We got spring happening today. We've been storing this energy of the difficult times so that we can put forth new growth, new possibilities. Emerson says this, what lies behind us and what lie before us are but tiny matters compared to what lies within us. I get excited by that. What wants to happen in you is bigger than you know. The level of fulfillment and freedom that Spirit is seeking to birth into your life on this spring day of 2022 is more than you know. It's big. It's beautiful. And it's just waiting for your permission, for your willingness to stake your faith in this claim that the Spirit that lives within me knows what it's doing and will get me through this. It will produce beauty and joy. I just have to trust it. I'm going to invite Dr. Joy Beth Lufty to the stage right now. Joy Beth is skilled and learned in something called body prayer. And she, a brand new song, it'll be on my new record coming out in just a few weeks. And Joy Beth has created a body prayer for it. I think she wanted to tell us a little bit about that.
Please stand if you can. Those that need to sit, you can get into the arm movements, just don't plop into the next person next to you. If you're standing, make sure that your feet are lined with your shoulder that your knees are slightly bent. We don't want any frozen bodies up here, okay? 7 movements. First one is, now I am. Tell me if you can't see me. Tell me if you can't see me. You're going to go down, now that I am, and go up. So renewal. There you go. That's it. One more time. God is in me. God is in me. And lift that wonderful being that you are. God is in me. Beautiful, beautiful. I wish you could see you. All that I am. All that I am. All that I am. You got it. 4 gestures. First one, love. Outline of love into your heart. Beautiful, love. Oh, take it in. Love. Okay, second one, light. Flickers everywhere, everywhere. Flick, 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 flick. You got it, you got it. Beautiful. Joy. Circle out, put them together, and then jazz hands or sparkles. Jazz hands, sparkles, okay? So that's it, joy. Little joy, big joy. You got it. One more, peace. It's the infinity sign, which means internal peace. You're making an 8. A sideways 8, that's it. Beautiful. You can make it more, because you're going to go with the music. You're going to go with the music and the words. And you're going to follow me in the gestures. I'll guide you, but you're going to make it your own. Ready?
Now I am in love. The love of God is in me, and all I am is love. I am love. And now I am in light. The light of God is in me, and all I am is light. I am light. And now I am in joy. The joy of the Lord is in me, and all I am is joy. I am joy. I am joy. And now I am in peace. The peace of God is in me, and all I am is peace. I am peace. I am joy. I am light. I am love. And so it is. Amen. Thank you, Joy.
Thank you for watching this message today. I'd like to invite you to join us in person here on campus at Unity of Houston for Sunday morning or Wednesday evening services. If you can't be with us here on our campus, you can still join us live on Facebook or on our website, unityhouston.org, Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Central.